Yeah, start with Abhishek.
Yeah. On sign transaction, I have some comments after Dennis' suggestion. So I think that needs to be looked upon. And I think the third one in review, it is approved by you and Dennis both. So if I think this can be merged, the implement ED 25519 part.
Yeah, I
So if
think
you
we're
can,
Yeah, I
waiting
think.
to.
Sorry, go
Yeah, I
ahead.
think we're. I was just say we're going to wait on that one until we get Sanders' task approved, because then we can, because there are big changes, 3 big changes in a row. So
Yeah, so we're trying to be careful about how we merge those because they're big.
okay, okay. On the task in progress, I think add memo is already done. I have created a draft review for it. I'm waiting for sign transaction to move so that I can move this also. And generate address is also almost done. I'll create a draft MR for that too today, and then I'll take up on a new task. Uh, but hopefully, I'm hoping sign transaction to go to be merged soon, so that I can move all the quality transaction in progress and review to done.
All right. Um,
Cool.
anything you need support with that you didn't cover already?
No, I think I have
Okay.
everything. I just need Dennis to look on the sign transaction part, which I had. So that's all.
All right. Let's move to Dennis.
Oh, we got to go
Okay.
to the
Yeah.
Ledger Nano board. One sec. All right.
Okay, I got another merge request in for Sander to review for the code. I cleaned up a bunch of stuff. I got my problem fixed with the hardware wallet, or the hardware version of the firmware for the Nano S. I'm going through and running some unit tests and stuff like that. So hopefully by tomorrow I'll be done with the first version. And if anybody wants to help me test, I can help you sideload it. So just drop me a note. It would be good if we can get some more people using it to try it out.
I will definitely help
So,
when I'm back in New York. If it's not too late by then, which is Monday. But did you see the documentation that Wisdom put together?
yeah, that's. I haven't reviewed it yet. I'll try to get that reviewed today.
Okay. And to
I've
anyone
been
who
focused on
does
trying to
want
get the firmware
to,
wrapped up.
sorry, what was that?
I said I'm just trying to get the firmware wrapped up so we can get that out of the way.
Gotcha. Well, to anyone who does want to help test the Ledger Nano app, Wisdom also wrote a side loading guide, so you can use that as well to walk you through the process. Just ping me if you want a link.
All right. Since we're already on this board, let's go to Sander.
Sounds good.
So are these going well? Is Sander here?
Yeah, he's here.
Yes, a little bit hard to unlock, unmute Nipsey, but I'm done. Yeah. Yeah,
Sounds good.
Sorry, go ahead.
I didn't get that, but
I couldn't quite hear you. What was that?
no, I'm in the car, so it's difficult to hear. But I'm just working still on the. I'm going to help them reviewing, and I can sideload new builds if Dennis has them. For the rest, I'm working on the Java library. I got Ledger connected to the Node USB port. I can discover the Ledger devices. I can read them out, open them, but I also need to set up an environment for an Android emulator, because actually we need to connect it not to Node, but to React. I think that's the transport module that works on the phone. And yeah, for a native platform, we have the Go CLI, so we don't need any JavaScript CLI, I think, for now. So I need to tomorrow. I'm going to set up React the test environment on with the Android emulator.
All right, sounds good. Let's move back to the main board.
Right.
We were on Dennis, so I guess it's my turn.
Is
What? Oh, Denny.
Denny's not
Right. I'm just getting confused with letters. But did you say Denny is not here, or were you asking?
No, he's not here. I mean, I don't see
Okay.
him on the list.
All right. Yeah, so hello, Lukeman? Anyways, community member just joined, or operator, based on the name.
Hey, Lukeman from Detroit Ledger Technology.
Hey,
You're the only
So,
person we have to point you out when you're here.
yeah. So I was going through the fuzz testing results and found yet another way in which weird URLs can cause problems. So I submitted an MR to patch that. And then Alex from Factoshi reported an issue with the block API. But talking to Paul, he says we should not put that change in 1.0, too late for 1.0. So 1.1 will have that fixed for the block API.
What was this is the issue?
Yes, that's the block API issue. Yeah. So because of how the Factum having gigabytes of data and tens of millions of chain entries was kind of a problem. So the way we imported the Factum data, the accounts are there and the end state of the Merkle tree is there, but the transaction entries and the hashes themselves are not. And when you try to query, because of that, when you try to query block 1 using the Sanders minor block API, it fails.
And we're okay with that bug being in 1.0?
Yeah, I think basically it doesn't affect the function of it doesn't affect token security and the continued stability of the network. So that's kind of the threshold for changes to the core protocol now. And there are ways to work around it.
Well, there's ways to work around it, and also we can fix this in 1.1 because the cryptographic proofs are there. It's just the API fails. So
yeah,
we can fix it later. And if it were a real big problem for somebody, we could give them a patch to substitute in the right data. So I mean, there are ways to get around this, and it doesn't affect tokens. So
sounds good to me. I guess it only matters for anyone who has actual Factum data.
Well, I mean, Factoshi, Alex is trying to build a rich list, and so he's trying to query, all of the blocks, and the Genesis block not being queryable is not, or at least not through that API, is not great, but doesn't meet the bar for 1.0.
Gotcha.
And other than that, just mostly been working on figuring out what's going on with the testnet. I think if informal systems is not able to help or help in time, I think whatever we do should involve slowly setting up the testnet. So setting up the seeds, then adding some validators, and then adding a few more validators, and just kind of moving slowly and recording the performance of the system so that we can characterize how the performance goes downhill if it does. So if whatever changes we're making, making the network ID different or trying to get rid of all of the garbage peer entries, in case that doesn't solve the problem, I want to move slowly, take like a day in between adding each 3 operators or something, so we can see how the behavior changes as we add validators to the system.
Gotcha. Well, on that note, I did actually meet someone last night at a crypto event who's very enmeshed in the Cosmo ecosystem. He said he had a few references he could give to us. So
That'd be
I'm gonna
great.
reach out to him today and see if we could have some backups.
All right. Yeah, definitely.
Now, are you, adding the network ID as well as changing all the keys, at least on the surface, looks like it has quite a bit of promise. Do we want to just go ahead and start that process? Because right now, is the network usable enough for the people developing against it? Because I don't think it really is.
What we were talking about is setting up a second, reusing the beta servers that are currently running RC1 to run a second RC 3.3 testnet for development purposes. My feeling is that changing the keys, I'm kind of doubtful that that's going to have an impact, because we have a validator set and those validators are voting.
Well,
they're just taking too long to vote.
Well, it might have made a difference if we didn't change the network ID. Of course, if you change the network ID, maybe you don't need to change the keys. But what we found in the reference was that if nodes are voting with the same keys, so if there are any of the nodes lingering, they could be messing us up, even one.
All of the validator nodes are accounted for. So unless an operator is secretly running 2 validators, all of the validator nodes, with the same key, which would play havoc with the system. So as long as all of the operators are behaving responsibly above board, we have all of them accounted for. So everybody that was on the old network is accounted for on the new network, and we know what their node is, and we know that it's up to date and voting or not voting.
I can tell you this: when we were running multiple networks in the office with Factum, even though we had no working theory how anything could possibly be cross-talking, we still had problems until we made networks run on unique keys, unique IDs. And so this is one, this is not a engineering analysis that proves this is the issue. It's just something I'm very, very leery of due to experience. Because consensus algorithms are very picky. I mean, it's all the Byzantine fault tolerance stuff. When they see things, it doesn't necessarily even have to be that you've compromised the validators, but that there are parties that they see transactions. Like, for instance, the beta net's been running, right? I mean, it exists. And some of the peers that we have may be peers into the beta network. And there's traffic, and that traffic has to be sorted and rejected because it looks sort of like it's valid, but it isn't. So hence my concern that the fact that we're running multiple networks that have that aren't segregated feels dangerous. I mean, let me put it differently. We definitely want to deploy with a main net set of IDs and not have a network existing that has that same set of IDs. So we know that's a fact. And so even if we wasted some time, rebooting with the network segregated, it won't be lost. And if it fixed us, then that saves us weeks and many hours. If it doesn't, well, that's ahead of us anyway.
My feeling is that I think the likelihood of it fixing things is not super high, and it's going to be a major undertaking to get all the operators coordinated. And so I'd rather wait until we have a chance to talk to Informal Systems again on Monday.
Well, I think it's when you talk about cross traffic between two networks, I think it's higher than you're giving it credit for, because the little reference we have wasn't very detailed anyway. Even though
I don't think we actually. So, there shouldn't be any traffic between the beta testnet and the stable testnet.
Anchors.
Because what?
Anchors. There's transactions on that. All they have to have is one peer. If those peers are
we
the same,
never had any operators on the beta testnet. So the beta testnet was just the seeds, I think.
Well, we could check. We can look at our peers and see if they're sharing any peers, because they have IP addresses, right?
Yeah, so we can take a look. I'm pretty sure they're not. So if I'm correct, then the only two
make a difference.
Yeah, and the only networks we had were the old stable and the new stable.
But if you find any peers that you don't recognize, that aren't part of, it may be hard to tell.
Yeah, I'll take a look through the lists and see what I see. Yeah. All right, so Jathan.
Hi. Yeah, in the CLI one, it is turning out to be a trial and error kind of a thing. Actually, I ran it through the debugger, the change that you suggested. I think it is skipping that. If
you're talking about the bug?
Yes.
Yeah, I suggested a change that I thought would fix it. That I sent to Jathan.
But I think there is more to it than it looks. I don't know. It's more of like a trial and error kind of thing. It's turning out to be.
Okay.
I'm working on this.
All right.
On the status API task, as you mentioned in your comment, that we must choose a different partition ID for the two different cases. And for directory network, we must have the response in a certain way, and for BVN in a certain way. I think I'm able to do it for the DN, but for the BVN, I'm having some difficulty. Maybe I'll message you offline on that part.
Okay, yeah.
Other than that, you can also assign me a new task, because these tasks are like going around in the background. I can also take up a new task.
Okay. Yeah, I'll talk to Dennis and Ben, or I'll talk to the team about that.
Okay, thanks.
All right, the man of the hour, Mr. Paul Snow.
Yeah, working on the manual doc. It's almost done, and working on a bunch of lawyer stuff, which doesn't show up in any of this Jira stuff, and reworking everything to fit the kind of transaction model that the actual network uses. In other words, I didn't exactly predict the way the APIs need to work correctly. So I'm updating the simulator to match what we're doing on the network side. So we'll have the manual backup process as a fallback. I still kind of think I can get the staking app done sufficiently. It's just taking way longer than it should.
On that note, on the governance docs, I know you merged in that last merge request, but I did have some questions that
and that's on my list too. I'm sorry. I started that work locally. I'll get your questions answered. I'll do that first thing.
Thank you very much. And what do you think right now is the ETA for the staking module, staking service?
I'm kind of gun shy because I've just been wrong repeatedly. I've been right about some of the stuff that I had to do, like some of the simulation stuff, but I've drugged pretty hard on processing the transactions. So one of the things that I didn't realize, but I have to do it now, is that I have to process each of the accounts manually, rerunning the transactions on those accounts, because when you run the staking service, it needs to be able to do all of the work from the first block all the way on, right? All the way to the end. And because I need the number of tokens issued prior to a major block, and I need the account balances prior to a major block. I don't need the current balances. That could be very, very different. So anyway, that's what I'm working through. All that said, I still feel like I should have this done by next week, but I haven't met these deadlines, so but I've gotten deeper into it, so I think I'm more accurate now.
Well, I think we've all got our fingers crossed.
Well, the manual process will be ready. So,
okay, that's good. Well, if you need any help, just holler.
All right, I'll have you help me program.
Yeah. Hey, I know JavaScript.
Right. Yeah.
Will that help?
Yeah, because Go's not any different.
I did actually take a course in Go like 4 years ago.
Oh, good. So totally qualified, trained, ready to go.
Yeah.
All right.
You can help us debug Tendermint, right?
Oh, absolutely. Actually, I've been debugging it this whole time. I wanted to keep it a surprise.
I am frustrated that you could have helped me and you didn't say anything for the last 2 weeks of our struggles. I'm hurt.
I wish.
Well,
I wish you were actually...
everything I contributed, I actually stole from Quentin, but he told me not to say anything. So.
Yeah, I mean,
I guess as long as you were helping in some way, it's okay.
Secretly, I've actually been building Accumulate by myself.
Yeah, he's re-implementing Accumulate in JavaScript.
Yes, that would actually be a fun project.
I mean, this is my preference is showing, but re-implementing Accumulate in JavaScript sounds like a terrible idea.
Well, challenge accepted. Anyway, I think that covers it for the core devs. We do have a couple community members here. So Luckman or Richard, do either of you guys have anything you'd like to bring up?
No, I've just been listening, see what's going on. So it's the first time I've come to one of these meetings. So this is Richard.
So anyway.
Yeah, same. This is Luke. Yeah, I was just learning, trying to get a fuller understanding of everything, how it all connects.
No problem. We we love to have community members here, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask at any point. We're not very formal, so you're always welcome to chime in.
And to be clear, even if your questions have nothing to do with development, you can raise them here. This is everyone complains on all these projects that exist, not just ours, that they get very little transparency, or they have questions and they don't feel like they're being answered or paid attention to. So this is an opportunity to do that. You can ask a question. We'll run with it. So just putting it out there. I'm not forcing you to ask a question.
Actually, I do have one sort of update for the community. So for anyone who's not aware, the testnet has been quite slow. There's been a lot of latency issues. We were talking yesterday about rebooting the beta testnet with the same version of the stable testnet, but only 2 nodes on it, so it could run a lot faster for anyone who's developing on the testnet. We haven't done that yet, but sorry, Ethan, you wanted to add anything there?
I was just going to say, to be clear, the names beta and stable are pretty meaningless at this point. They're just basically which URL.
Yeah, I think we should change the names to slow testnet and fast testnet.
No. No. Testnet 1, testnet 2, fine.
Yeah,
because
it would just be a stopgap measure until the latency issues are solved.
Right. Well, but the need for multiple testnets exists in most protocols, and repurposing a testnet for a particular task at any particular time is suitable. And so if you have notes based on the testnets, then that's a nice way to say, well, right now this testnet's suffering some latency issues. You do development on that other testnet. That kind of thing is better, because later it'll be something else. We're going to try out algorithm X, or we now support feature Y, and we're testing it over here. So
yeah, absolutely. So if anyone is interested in that, actually, I do know of one party that is still using the beta testnet. So we just need to wait until the start of next week to actually make that move. But if anyone in the community is interested in such, please let us know, because it is helpful to understand whether the things we do are actually helpful. And yeah, all right, that's it from me.
Anything else anybody wants to say or ask?
None being heard.
All right. Talk to you tomorrow.
Thank you, everyone.